Call the meeting to order. Pledge allegiance. Invocation from Harvest Community Church. Are you here? Okay. We'll do roll call.
Sabers. Here. Goldammer.
Here.
Dosher. McCardle.
Here.
Barrington. Here. Bathke. Here. Sharks. Here. Smith.
Here.
Okay, item 5, approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Anybody have anything to remove or discuss?
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Mrs. Sharks and second by Mr. Goldhammer. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Again? Oh, this is a roll call, excuse me. Roll call vote.
Smith. Aye. Sharks. Aye. Bathke. Aye. Barrington. Aye. McCardle.
Aye.
Dosher. Goldammer.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Okay, citizens input. If you need to address the mayor or members of the city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personal items, please come forward to the podium and state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken. Anybody have anything? Anybody in the audience? I just got one thing that I'd like to say is a week and a half or so ago when Doug had Billy Mills here, that was a great deal to have because I think that anybody who didn't see it missed out on it. It was, I think every high school kid in the state should probably listen to him because he had a good message and he was very inspiring to everybody that was there, I think. So I'd like to thank Doug for reaching out to him and getting to come to Mitchell.
Yeah, that was really cool, Doug. Of the other living members that are up there, do we have possibly a plan to try to get them here also?
We have reached out to all of them. Mike Miller was actually here in December and took pictures. They used him in the program for the Hoop City Classic this year. And then we've reached out to Becky Hammond and to Charles Guimar, who are the other two living ones. And in fact, we have a close connection to Mr. Guimar, so we're very hopeful for him. Haven't had any response from Becky Hammond. So, but we'll keep working. Hope they get here in 2024. Thank you. Appreciate the recognition and yeah, he was very gracious. And you know, that man was 85 years old, as was his wife, married 62 years, and still is very inspirational for what he's done for the country and certainly for the reservations. You know, he continues to support Native American runners and Native American youth across the country.
Thanks, Doug. Anybody else? All right, enter a motion for the city council to sit as Board of Adjustments.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Goldhammer. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against nay? Motion passed. A hearing, action on application for Levi Fisher variance permit. Levi Fisher, prospective home buyer, has applied for a variance permit for a side yard corner lot setback of 18 feet by 20 feet to build an 8 by 18 addition onto the house, located at 601 South Edmund Street, legally described as all of Lot 1 and the north 9 foot of Lot 2, Block 8, Van Epps, second edition, City of Mitchell, Davison, South Dakota. The said real property is zoned R2, single family resident district. Mr. Jenigas.
Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 5-0 with 2 absent. It was noticed in the paper, signs posted, letters sent out to the neighbors. There were 4 letters returned in favor of this. The applicant is looking to purchase this house And it's currently a legal non-conforming house because it is a triplex in R2. He's wanting to purchase it and demo the interior of the building and make it a single-family dwelling. But by doing so, he'd like to add an addition on that the 8 by 18 feet. It would go down a little bit further, Stephanie, in this corner right here on this building. So it'd be outside the site triangle. It would not have to tear down that tree, he doesn't believe, but it'd be going about 2 feet past where that little jut is on the building itself there. Planning Commission didn't have any issues with it, with looking at the neighborhood, seeing it wasn't in the site triangle, and there's some other ones in the area that are within that 20 feet. I can
Yeah.
answer any questions.
Mark, when I was looking at the pictures, it almost looks, and maybe it is, like some of the other homes along that street are in that same line of sight that this would be. So I'll go ahead and move approval.
A motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Barrington. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Against, nay. Motion passed. Action to set date for Board of Adjustments hearing 2-20-24. Kaylee Fluth has applied for a variance permit for a side yard setback of 1 foot versus 3 feet to tear down an existing garage and build a new 24-foot by 20 by 24-foot garage located at 802 West 2nd Avenue, legally described as Lot 15, Block 92, Lawler Second Edition, City of Mitchell, Davidson, South Dakota. The said real property is zoned R2, Single Family Resident District.
Second.
And a motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mrs. Charch to set the date. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Against, nay. Motion passed. Reconvene as City Council, enter a motion, the Board of Adjustments to adjourn, to adjourn to the City Council to reconvene in regular session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Golden, second by Mr. Barrington. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, nay? Motion passed. Action to award bid for East Spruce Street Project 2019-39. Mr. Schroeder?
Yep, Mr. President, Council, bids were opened on January 17th in City Hall Council Chambers at 1:30. 2 bids were received, with the low bid being by Rexwinkle Concrete for an amount of $875,000, $652.04, excuse me. The bid tabulation is attached for your information. The project came in slightly over what we had budgeted for in the '23 budget. Did do a supplemental request to allow us $100,000 contingency between our street budget and our storm sewer budget. And with that, I am recommending awarding the bid to Rexwinkle Concrete for the amount listed. The project is set to be started when MTI is out of school and finished up before Dakota Fest starts.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. Sabers. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, nay. Motion passed. Action to approve purchase of equipment for Mitchell Regional Landfill. Mr. Schrader again.
Yep, Mr. President, Council. The landfill is requesting the purchase of equipment to assist in removing debris from refuse receptacles. Basically, it is a scraper that's going to go on the front of a loader that's going to scrape out roll-offs. We're proposing a $30 fee, and those cleaning will be requested by the hauler, and the city will do the work. The city of Sioux Falls utilizes this type of equipment and also charges $30. Quote was received from Butler Machinery Company for a price of $8,143.75, and we do recommend council approval.
This is for cleaning like the big roll-off dumpsters, isn't it?
Correct. Yep. I'll have 2 more items on the agenda related to this as far as a waiver and setting the fees.
A motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Barrington. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay? You're all right. Motion passed. Does anybody have any comment on that in the public? Motion passed. Okay. Action to approve the release of the notice of Les Pendens, 201 East 9th. Let's skip over 12. Action to approve regional landfill waiver.
Yep, Mr.
Yeah.
President, Council. The landfill is requesting the approval of a waiver of liability and release for commercial and private use at the landfill. The waiver addresses landfill use, damages caused at the landfill, insurance requirements for commercial companies, stating that there would be no scavenging, outlines compost use, and lists the cost for vehicle scrape out and compost loading. Mr. Johnson has reviewed this document, and with that, staff does recommend approval.
Got a motion by Mr. Saber, second by Mr. Bathke, was it? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Against, nay? Motion passed. Now we'll go to 13. Action to approve release of notice of Les Pendens, 201 East 9th. Mr. Johnson.
All right, so just some brief history on this is there was a nuisance lawsuit pertaining to the property at 201 East 9th, which is just north of the Pitt's office location. Excuse me. That loose lawsuit was resolved back in about 2016. As part of that lawsuit, a notice of lease pendens was filed, but after the lawsuit was resolved, the release never got filed. So really, this is just cleaning up the title history on that property.
And that's a vacant lot right now.
Yep.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Sharks. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay? Anybody in the audience have anything to say? Motion passed. Action to approve Agreement A 2024-6, Mitchell Municipal Airport, AIP number 3-46-0037, Powers Agreement. Or, there's more to it, 032024 with Helms Associates. Mr. Schroeder.
Yep, Mr. President, Council. This agreement is with Helms and Associates for design, bidding, and construction phase services for a revenue-producing hangar at the Mitchell Municipal Airport. The hangar would include 3 to 4 bays and would be rented to private individuals or businesses on a first-come, first-served basis. Project would have a 90-10 cost share, with the city's share being 10%. Total contract amount is $202,251.30, and the breakout is shown below that for the individual fees. City staff does recommend City Council approving the agreement to complete the services for this project, and I can answer any questions you may have.
For this project, is the plan for the rental to be short or long-term?
And Justin can correct me if I'm wrong, but typically in situations like this, we see 1 to 5 year contracts, and then they're renewed upon mutual agreement, or if there's any changes we need to make to the fees.
We currently don't have any rentals out there now, or we just need to add more?
We are adding. We do have rentals out there currently. Talking with Mike Scherzlick, Airport Superintendent, and Helms, it sounds like when they do build hangars elsewhere, they fill up quickly. And Mike says he gets phone calls every now and then from, say, people from Sioux Falls asking if we have space to place to hold a plane. So.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mrs. Sharks. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Against nay. Motion passed. Any discussion? If anybody in the audience have any comments? We'll move on to number 15, action to approve agreement A 202408, James Valley Drug Task Force Joint Power of Agreement. Chief Coster.
Mr. President, Council, Chief Coster, Police Department. This is a reoccurring agreement that we've had for a number of years between the Mitchell Police Department, Aurora County, Davidson County, Hanson County Sheriff's Offices, and this multi-jurisdictional agreement is allowing all of us to work together as a drug task force, sharing resources to investigate drug crimes. Agreement shall begin on the first day of February, today being the 5th, so if this is approved, it would go into effect immediately. We just need to get the signatures of the sheriffs involved. What we are requesting tonight is approval for Mary Everson and myself to sign this document. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Move to approve.
Second.
The motion, Mrs. Charles, second by Mr. Goldhammer. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Point of order, can we have public comment before we vote?
You want to
Just
do
as
public
a-
comment? Okay.
I don't know that there is any, but
Anybody have any public comment? Okay. We had a motion by Ms. Stark, second by Mr. Goldhammer. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against nay. Motion passed. Action to approve agreement A 2024-9 Tornado Safe Room Grant Award Project 2023-33 with the South Dakota Department of Emergency Management. Mr. Schroeder again.
Yes, Mr. President, Council. Council approved the application for a hazard mitigation grant at their May 16, 22 council meeting. The city received notification that we were awarded a total grant of $594,768.90, with that 90% being funded by the federal government and 10% by the state. This grant will be used to build a 158-person occupancy safe room that is approximately 1,900 square feet at the Lake Mitchell Campground and will be designed per FEMA 361 standards. This project was identified in our pre-disaster mitigation plan. The City of Mitchell will have to pay for bathrooms and showers that were not covered by FEMA, and that cost is approximately $81,000. With that, staff does recommend council approval of the grant and also approve the mayor to sign on their behalf, and I can answer any questions you may have. I would like to thank Mark Jenigas for his work on this grant. He played a big role, and also Kevin Nelson with Park and Rec.
How was that location decided upon?
As far as where that was located, so it's identified that the campground has X amount of campsites, which we can use a certain amount of people. So the amount of campsites is how we got to 158. So it's considered as an area that regularly has people or persons that if a storm came, that they would not have adequate time to get to safety. And that's why that site was chosen for that spot.
And I think another thing to point out, Joe, is the bathrooms that are in there that are costing us $81,000. For anybody that might have seen those bathrooms at all, would perfectly understand why we need to upgrade them and spend $81,000. So it's not sort of something that we want to do. It's something that we have to do, and we're just getting the best of both worlds here and getting a place to protect our renters and campers out there when something does come through with severe weather. So
That's exactly right. And there's cost savings for the city by combining the projects into one, with common walls and those types of things.
Joe, with the jetty coming in down there, has there ever been a discussion about relocating the campground? Down to more level area? Has that ever been a discussion? Just to make sure we ain't spending this money and then thinking about I mean, we're thinking about making the stuff nicer, doing stuff,
My understanding, council members and Mr. President, is that we're not able to expand the campground without the agreement of all the local campgrounds.
wouldn't be
those within
expanding it,
15
you'd have the
miles.
same amount of lots, but, I mean, a place where you'd have a beach, more stuff for it to do and a level.
And we have quite a bit of shade at the current campground as well.
Excuse me?
We have quite a bit of shade at the current campground with all of the large trees there, and I don't know that we would have that over at the jetty at present. Perhaps with future development and planning by placing trees in that area, that's something we could think about.
I do know when we were talking about the marina area, adding some cabins, and the city, as I understand it, the mayor can correct us.
Going with this.
He's the one that I think kind of spearheaded it, but you needed, the current state law is you have to have all the campgrounds in a certain mile radius have to approve, and we did not get approval from every campground. They denied. But your question is, what if we keep the amount the same? Because we were going to keep the campground and then add some existing.
Correct.
And I know that the plan was not taking the whole campground over there, but doing some cabins, and that did not get approval. But I don't know, the way that it's designed right now, I don't think there was space for a campground there. Is that correct, Joe?
I don't believe it was looked into with great detail, but it would, it's not something that could be done easily. We have the infrastructure here in place with our campground as far as electrical, water, those types of things. If we moved it, we would be essentially designing a brand-new campground area.
And Jeff, kind of going back to your comment a little bit more, when there was that discussion about trying to do cabins over by where the future jetty and things would be, I know Nate was here at that time, and one of the things that they did at the existing campground is they did actually eliminate some spaces. So that was going to be one of our arguments for being able to do the expansion over on the other side, is we're not changing the overall number. But obviously there was some risk with that, and it hasn't moved forward yet, so.
I'm not a camper, Joel, but is it everything up to code as far as water to each spot, electricity to each spot?
There are occasionally some breakers that get tripped if we have too many 50 amp versus 30 amp in one zone, but as far as water hookups and sewer hookups, everything's fine.
Current. I just didn't want to think down the road if we have spent a bunch of money that, now's the time to do it, but. Need a motion yet, or?
We need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Bathke. Any discussion on this item in the audience?
I was just going to make one more comment. We're going to try to encourage with the jetty and the marina and so forth, more people to come out there. And if they're on the lake and you know how quickly weather can turn, it would be nice to have a spot for even the boaters that are out there, that maybe from out of town or wherever, they wouldn't know where to go. So even with or without the campground, having the shelter is probably a good idea.
Okay, we had a motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Bathke. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against nay, motion passed. Action on agreement A 2024-10, tax increment District 32 developer agreement. Mr. Johnson.
All right, so this would be in relation to the Cromer TIF that was recently established and approved. This is just the developer agreement, lays out some additional terms as to how that increment would be getting passed on to the developer. Much of it is very similar to past developer agreements that we've approved. If there are any questions, I can take those.
Need a motion.
Move to approve Agreement A 2024-10.
Second.
Got a motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Barrington. Any discussion, if anybody in the audience? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, nay. Motion passed. Action to approve Resolution R 2024-5, plat of Track 1 of Gene's Addition in the northwest corner of Section 34, Town 104 North, Range 61 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davison, South Dakota, Davis County, South Dakota. Mr. Janigas.
Mr. President, Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 5-0 with 2 absent. This is outside the ETJ, but it's within 3 miles of city limits, so it has to come in front of this board for their approval as well. County Planning Commission and County Commission approved the plat for this already. There is a variance that goes with this as well, because in the county it has to be 25 acres. They're platting out 7 acres for future dwelling for a family member. That variance was also approved by Board of Adjustment. I can answer any questions that you may have for this.
Motion approved.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Saber, second by Mr. Goldhammer. Any discussion in the audience on this one? All in favor of the motion, signify it by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, nay. Motion passed. Action to approve Resolution R 2024-08, fees and charges at the Mitchell Regional Landfill. Mr. Schroeder, I think this has to do with what we talked about before.
Yep, Mr. President, Council, this is just amending our rate resolution to add landfill fees for our vehicle scrape out of $30 and compost loading of $20. All fees will go into effect on March 1st of '24, and staff recommends council approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion from the audience? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, nay. Motion passed. This is the good one here. Action to approve Resolution R 2024-09, annexation of parcel owned by the city of Mitchell described as a portion of Lot 3, bounded by the following points and lines, beginning at the northeast corner of Lot 3A of D.R. Kiner's First Edition, and also being the point of the beginning, hence southeasterly along the eastern boundary of line of Lot 3A of D.R. Kiner's First Edition's distance 280 feet, .1, until the point of intersection with the quarter line, hence easterly a distance of 84 feet along the quarter line until reaching the intersection of the quarter line of the irregular Track 2, hence northwesterly a distance of 304 feet along the western boundary of irregular Track 2, hence westerly a distance of 10 feet. Back to the point of the beginning of all the southwest corner of Section 31, Township 104 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davison, South Dakota. You guys got that?
Yeah, I think you read that one line wrong, so we can read it over.
Yeah. It was, I'm glad it's over.
The reading's larger than the
Yeah. So if you recall, the city of Mitchell just recently purchased this piece of property from the Kiners for $1. It is outside city limits right now. Actually, in our city map, it shows that it's within city limits. This is a piece of property that we did not know existed until we were doing some research in this area. So that's when we contacted Kiners to purchase this. And IT Track 2 is already in city limits, so we'd like to annex this portion in as well with it.
I think that's what I said.
Yeah. Hopefully there will be a shorter legal in the future for you to read.
Move to approve as written.
A motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mrs. Charks. Any discussion from the audience? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, nay. Motion passed. Second reading on ordinance 02024-01, amending the composition of the Business Improvement District Number 4. Mr. Johnson.
All right, so second reading on this item. Again, this relates to the Business Improvement District Number 4 Board, which was recently established back in the end of 2023. As you recall from last meeting, when we were in the process, there were concerns raised by hoteliers about the number of their representatives on the board. They asked during that process for their membership to be expanded, and this ordinance is meant to do that. It increases their membership on that board from 3 to 5, which brings the total membership on that board from 7 to 9. And with that, I will open it to any questions.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Barrington. Anybody in the audience have any comments on this? All in favor of the second reading, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, nay.
Move to adopt?
Motion by Mr. Chark, second by Mr. Barrington to adopt. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay. Roll call on this one.
Sabers.
Aye.
Goldammer.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington. Bathke. Charks.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Okay, we'll go to council update discussion on Corn Palace mechanical repairs and seating in the Corn Palace. I'll start it out, I guess. I put it on the agenda because I go down there quite often, and I hear a lot of complaints about the seating, basically the condition of the aging Corn Palace falling apart at the seams, what it comes down to. I sent Stephanie some pictures. Sure. I went through one night last week and counted all the chairs, I must have been bored that night, that had rips and tears in them. And there was, I think it came to 776 chairs. Where I got the numbers, that's how many are tore in each of those different sections. So roughly about 45% of the chairs in there are either ripped, or, and if you want to show a picture of what some of the tears look like, you can too. They're not good. And there's quite a few like that. Then I went to the next ones, I went to a game on Saturday night, and on the south corner, by where the doors are, the scoreboard's out back there, all the tiles are the ceiling, and they got 4 garbage cans there while people are walking through, and the ceiling's leaking. Didn't look real appealing. But in the chairs, if you go and look at them, I mean, I don't know if they've ever been cleaned. There's some of them that looks, like they spilled hot chocolate all over them, or had milk duds that melted into them, or, I mean, I know we're talking about reupholstering them, but if you go sit in them, I mean, 90% of the people in this room right now would have a hard time fitting in them. They're tight, your knees are up by your chin, they're just outdated. And I hear it from all the time whenever I go there, how bad they are. And it's a place that 500,000 people come a year to visit. I would think we'd want to have it looking good and keep it, keeping it up. That's my biggest concern. We've got the roofs leaking, the chairs are falling apart. We've got 2 boilers in the back. One of them doesn't work. 2 out of 3 work. One of them doesn't work. I think if we want people to keep coming here, I mean, it's either put some money into it and fix it, or tear it down and turn it into green space. I don't know if that's what we want to do with it, but I think we need it, because I think every business in town probably profits one way or another through the year, and people that come off the interstate that come to the Corn Palace. But I know I've talked to Dan about it, Tim, Jeff, I've talked to everybody about it. Everybody kind of in agreements that something needs to be done because it's in such terrible shape. Mike, Marty, I've talked to all you guys. I don't know if anybody else wants to throw anything in there, but
Doug, what's the plan on the, on far as the heat and the cooling? I mean, 8 years ago, they told us it should be in the 5-year plan, so probably our lack of cutting it maybe, but,
So the chiller system is early 90s, and the mayor obviously has expertise in all of this, and I've kept him and Stephanie up to date. We've spent some considerable money 2 years ago, $40,000 on the air handling system. That was just a shaft, about a 16-foot shaft and pulley and bearings and things like that. And those are under the raised section. So they've been in there since 1964, the air handling system that moves the heat and cool. So they would have to be dismantled. There's no repairing those. They have to be dismantled, cut apart, hauled out a door, and then new ones are at much higher speed. So that's a concern. Kevin was right, the boilers in the Corn Palace, one is out of commission when I started here 5 years ago, so we have a redundant system. There are two. On really cold nights, we use both of them. And then the chiller system outside, we put in about $10,000 in 2022, where we had a compressor leak, and it blew out most of the oil. And that was it's an older oil, they don't use it anymore, so it's very expensive to replace. So other than, as far as a plan of replacement, we actually have a consultant, I guess, salesman, if you will, who does that work and has looked at our system, and they can prepare numbers as needed. Stephanie, I don't know if you ever talked with the mayor about that. The mayor kind of interjected at that point.
It's right here. This question came up during the budget hearing process, and actually council asked that question as well. So I did report this to the board. The estimates there for the boilers and the chillers were just replacing those pieces of equipment. The thing I need to point out, so we had stated during budget hearings that equipment is probably 2 to 5 years out in needs of replacement. The thing to remember is that when you looked at the Corn Palace study, there was an estimate of a minimum of $5 million for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, something else on there. That would be replacing the whole system, the pipes, everything. So as you can see, the equipment itself is quite a big purchase, and you're not getting the whole system replaced like you would be in the Corn Palace study that was shown.
I heard the mayor this morning on Billy Orkin, First Mondays with the Mayors, he even said those chairs need to be replaced.
Yeah.
has it ever been checked, most of the commercials are rooftop units? Most of them don't go inside. Have you ever heard them say that? Because, I know we have the 2 domes upstairs.
Sure. I think part of the issue is the current system is you have a chiller yard, right, where that is at, and those are still in use. They're pretty efficient. It's just that these are beyond their expected lifespan. There's no doubt about it. I think when you get into rooftop units, and I have no expertise here, but just the sheer maintenance of them, when you talk about leaking roofs, once you start putting rooftop units on, that can cause those issues. In fact, I do apologize, I was gone last week, so we've had a leak, and it's not a roof issue, it's simply when we had the first snow in the fall or in the winter, it froze and it lifted the grate up on the south side, right where that is leaking. So the roof is fine, but there's the roof comes over, and it's about a 4-foot ledge that holds this big snow pile, and until that melts away, it's encased in ice. So those buckets should have been taken away, and if it was still dripping, we put things up in the ceiling. So I was not here, because that's not a new issue, we were aware of it, but quite honestly, if we put in new ceiling tiles, as soon as it warms up, then they fall out again. So that is as soon as the snow was gone up there, we will fix that. It's an easy fix, so that's not a roof issue. The roof isn't bad, and we have really no leaks in the building, other than that one on the south bleachers. And then on the seats, and I addressed this last fall, this was a supply issue, I guess you'd call it, but I did follow up our fabric. We have 200 yards of fabric, which will give us those 600 new covers, which we will replace. And Kevin's right, there's just over 700, but we also know we'll be able to take some of those that we replace, because we're doing that whole middle section, A and B, and then the ones that are pictures of we've taken all the worst ones and moved them up in the corners, but it's a
Some of those in
problem.
the front row of the Corn Palace.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's a problem, because when we have kids here, they pulling the foam out. And once we lose the foam, then it's a bigger expense.
Ever been discussed replacing the chairs? Is that our budget's?
I can tell you that since I've been here, it's probably come up 3 or 4 different times. The conversations that I remember, I think maybe the last time was when Scott was here, I don't remember. At the time, we were estimating $750,000 to $1 million. I did confirm with not MSH anymore, Schemmer, we're still up in that price range for sure. The issues that I remember council discussing at the time was wanting to replace chairs, but not wanting to lose the number of seats. You could easily replace chairs with what we have there. You're not going to address your concerns about the width or the depth, I guess, of the seat. And if you go wider, you're going to lose seats. So my previous conversation, or the previous discussions, that's what I remember, is the push and pull between replacing seats with new seats, but losing out on the number of seats that we
We
have
don't
now.
fill the place ever anyway.
Hey, Doug, is there I'm assuming you have a contract with these people for this fabric?
Yes.
Have they missed their deadline?
Not this one, they're right on. The issue was, we went right to the manufacturer this time. After Councilman McCardle questioned it, we'd literally been in touch with them twice a month since February of last year. And we finally tracked down the actual manufacturer, and he said, here, just go to them. If he would have said that a year ago at this time, they would have already been replaced. And then,
Do we have any money into this yet?
no, it's actually not that expensive. We're going to do 600 fabric for $1,600. And then to have them made is another $1,500. I think it was $3,400 total. Yeah. And that'll do 600 new seats. And then, of course, we do shampoo these. What you see is, it's just it's a lot of spills. And so we do shampoo them. The broken one, that again, occasionally they do come out. That's a minor fix. So if we see that, we do ask people to report them, but,
2 of them missing cushions.
the cushions are gone? Up in the corner? I guess I wasn't aware of that, but we do have seats for every seat. I mean, there aren't any shouldn't be missing.
But there's spots where they're drilled back, where they're anchored back into the wall. I mean, the cement isn't holding some of them in anymore. I mean, it's been drilled.
If you were to
in some-
stop here during the week, we fix chairs on a weekly basis, probably 2 or 3, which come loose in the cement, and then we have to drill them out and put new anchors in. It's just sheer use.
Yeah,
you know,
and the cement's
flexing.
not there to drill into in some spots anymore.
I guess on the comment on seats, that's changed a lot in the last 10 years. I mean, if that's something you're interested in,
I think we should get a bid on them.
Yep. They make seats that don't have armrests, for example, or armrests that flip up, and they're a thinner seat. This is a premium seat. It's quite thick, very cushiony, but you can actually get thinner seats that flip up flatter, so you have more room to walk between them when they're up. These, stick out with the arms. So there are different styles. Now, you can't change the pitch of the arena without, obviously, a remodel, but if that's something council's interested in, we certainly, there's all kinds of people who want to sell seats.
I think we need them.
I'd like to have you reach out to them and send us a couple, if they're really interested in selling us 3,500 seats or whatever. And
These are the ones that were sent by the architect when we asked for an updated price.
I'm actually talking the actual seat, if they really want to sell us with a cup holder. And I mean, if we're only into it for $1,500, let's pull the air brakes here.
I think there's 760-some seats. I can't remember. I had it written down here, but.
792 in the 1,792 in the
Yeah,
theater.
that's right.
But, that 600 number will get us, with the ones we take off, we'll get a cover on every seat without a cut in it. and then obviously the plan would be to move forward now that we have a manufacturer and
There's 776 seats that I saw that have tears in them. I probably missed a few, so it's probably closer to 800.
I do think, even if council decides that you want to move forward with the seat replacement, those things take time. And by the time you get to a point where you're going to have to demo, you're going to have to dispose of the existing seats, you're going to have to go out to bid for this project, so it's going to be over the bid limit. That's a process in and of itself. The Corn Palace is used year-round. In the summer, the tourists are sitting there. I don't think it's a waste of money to keep going with those upholsterer,
I think.
no matter what you do.
Yes,
Okay?
definitely. You can't fit in them.
Well, but
No,
Go sit in one.
no,
Dan,
no,
go sit in one.
Kevin,
You can't
Kevin,
get
what
in.
I'm saying is, in the interim, council could still consider replacing the seats, but I wouldn't stop with fixing the seats that we have now, so that between now and a replacement timeframe, you still have something that is functioning better than what we have now. Because it's
At a cost of
$3,900.
$3,000.
Yeah. It's not a significant expense to get them fixed the way they are now, too, and keep going.
Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's also currently plans, well, not, I shouldn't say plans, there's ideas about a renovation to change some seating. Would it, if we're going to talk about incurring a cost, would it not be better to look at all of the seating and say, this is actually the best use of dollars to what we want going forward, not just fixing what we have right now, but looking, if we're talking about the long-term use of the Corn Palace, what's the best use of seats and capacity for not just the next 5 years, but the next 50 years of the Corn Palace and the use of those seats in that capacity?
so, yes, there is a plan. There was a study done in 2021. Stephanie's got those pictures. About 2 months ago, we actually put it on the wall behind the north bleachers, if you haven't seen that. So these images are there. It says, what's next? And an opportunity for them to ask questions and scan and send input. So that plan is there. And the lower end of that was that 24 million. The higher end was the 41 million, versions A, B, and C. And all of those plans involve some destruction of the current raised seating. Plans 2 and 3 remove all of it, and it's all retractable seats.
Joe, since 2021, Joe, what's the average bids have come in over, how much could you guess? Impossible, but 25%?
How many of our bids come in over budget?
Yes. This was 2021, he said, so.
So, it was, yeah, we've been trying to estimate, so we're not, but I would say that since COVID, a vast majority of our projects have come in over budget.
So we're looking at quite a substantial more than what these prices are, most likely.
That's fair, yes.
But I guess
Stephanie, maybe, can you zoom in on that, Stephanie, if those in the back? Oh. I mean, this was all public and it's always available, obviously, but it's been a while since, something that's interesting, Mr. Goldhammer, is all of these, the HVAC replacement is in all of these. It's about the same, regardless of the change. And it would be, even if we rechange it in the building today, that cost is very similar, even with the current building versus an expanded Corn Palace.
I think some of those plans probably have changed now with the high school putting 3 or 4 basketball courts. You know, we don't need the extra courts in the Corn Palace anymore because they're putting their courts up at the high school.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because when we were going through here, that was adding additional courts for youth basketball and those type. And now that
Oh, the high school.
we've got the high school in place, they've got, what is it, 5 or 6, I should know. But it's substantial.
Quite a few.
There's quite a few. And the other thing is when we're talking about the seating and the different plans we had here, as Doug pointed out, we're going to be taking out the existing seating, which theoretically would be taking out all the renovations that we did 10 years ago. And that's been bothering me a little bit, given the fact, that we spent a lot of money on the Corn Palace with the entrance, and I wouldn't mind taking another look and keeping the existing risers, looking at different seating, and then we always talked about the possibility of the stage and extending and exposing the rafters and extending that out and getting the square footage there. What we were looking at is the possibility of being able to host some events that really would need a lot of the square foot areas, boat shows, camper shows, other darts or pool or whatever the case may be. And I don't know what that magic number is as far as size, but I wouldn't mind circling back around and at least visiting with the fact of keeping the risers as we've got them right now. And then that keeps then the lobby untouched. And with the money that we invested 10 years ago would still remain.
I think if that's the direction council wants to go, we can put some proposals together. Obviously, I know Joe and I talked about this last week when President McCardle brought this up. We need to look at what that's going to change the use of the seats and whether there's load and stuff like that, load requirements, stuff like that. So we can put a proposal together. If you're still moving forward, at least with the upholstery, so over the summer and when we have concerts over festival and stuff, we're using a better seat that we have now. I would assume you're going to probably be a year out before you're going to have anything replaced by the time you would get design, bid specs, all that stuff done and get on someone's schedule. So we can put that together.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just, we can bring it back to council if that's something you're interested in.
And we always talked in the past that if we get a proposal, I think that the community would accept and want and like, and a project in the end, why don't we go out and try to sell this thing to a private company and sponsorships? And every large arena in the state has a name associated with it. So why don't we? And that way we could maybe pay for part or maybe even all of it. But the other thing that I didn't like in the end, or after I got thinking about it, the second entrance to me is meaningless. As President McCardle brought up, we very rarely sell out the current facility. I just don't see where we would benefit of having to have a second entrance, and then you'd have to have concessions and duplications of everything. So I'd like to just scale it back a little bit and have Stephanie and Joe and Mayor or whoever just kind of take a look and just see what other options are out there, and then see if we want to follow up with our current architect to give us an estimate.
I know one of the things that we've talked about through the years is the desire that we have for the SDHSAA to bring more events to the Corn Palace. Will the new high school facilities accommodate some of those activities that some of those state tournaments and events that we were hoping to be able to house at the Corn Palace? I guess that's...
No, because it's all about seating.
Right, so what kind of seating do we have at the new high school?
2,500.
And what do we need?
2,500.
And what do we need? Is it 4,000?
5,000.
5,000. So, by saying this, and I totally respect, and I think that's probably the prudent thing to do, what you're saying, Jeff. But it does basically make us take that step back and say, we no longer will be trying to get some of those state tournaments in Mitchell, which is really what I always felt was one of the driving forces, was increasing our seating capacity at the Corn Palace so that we could accommodate those tournaments.
I would agree. That's what I've heard you guys discussing in the past. So if that's changed, that'll make moving forward with a different project look different.
Right, and again, it's never wise to build something for Easter Sunday. And yeah, we want people, but there's other events that we could host, so there's going to be a trade-off. And so the number of millions of dollars you'd have to invest to try to get on a rotation, to me, probably doesn't make much sense.
And I think that that's really where we need to go, is we need to just, shift our paradigm. Because we've talked about it for so long. It's been such a discussion for such a long time. For the 10 years that 11, whatever it's been, years that I've been on council, that has been something that we've continued to talk about. How do we get Mitchell to be able to host some of these big events? So, but, I agree with you. I think that maybe the prudent thing to do is accept that while we may not attract some of those high school events, there are other events that we would be able to accommodate and bring in, and maybe at the end of the day, we do better than we would have done if we'd gotten a state B basketball tournament.
And I think the high school's building theirs big enough where if they want to have a basketball or gymnastics or wrestling match there, that they can have it at the high school and not here.
Yeah, and that was what my question was. Will their seating meet that threshold?
For them it will, but not for the state. They could have
Oh, I
just
see.
made people in the Corn Pills, because they do at the high school.
You're talking about Colonel events.
Yeah, Colonel
not high
events,
school.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, high school events.
Well, I agree. Two things. I really think that we've got to go ahead with the reupholstery of those chairs. It's a minor investment. It will extend the life of what we have until we can get a bid and a proposal so that we can get some new seating. It is a complaint that I'll bet every person around this table has heard, and I know you've heard it. I'm sure you have. I know this has been something that's been weighing heavy on your mind too, Doug. So I think we have to take that two-pronged approach and fix them to get us through till we can get some new seats.
And it's not Doug's fault that they're too small. They're just too small. People are bigger and there's no room to get, if you sit in there, I'm not that big, and if I sit in there, my knees are up by my chin. And, tall guy
I'm not a
like
big person,
Justin,
and I
just-
have a
just
hard
like
time
him sit.
sitting in them, so yeah, I get it.
So I think we'll put something together and we'll bring it back,
Okay.
staff will bring it back for council to review.
Anybody in the
Next
audience have
steps
anything
forward.
to add to this?
Not to the seats, but,
Can you come up? Yeah.
not to the seats, but can we go back?
State your name so they know. who-
Craig Bennett. Not to the seats, but can we go back to this 4-foot gap we've got in the roof? I assume that every time it snows and freezes, you're going to have a leaky roof?
Just until we get on the roof to fix it.
But that's been going on for multiple years.
Oh, no, not this leak. No.
Okay.
This is a new one.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
this
is.
is another one.
This is
Okay,
just
so-
winter, yeah.
We've had 40s and 50-degree temperatures. How hard would it be to get up there and fix that now so you don't have it again when it snows here in 90 days?
Sure. Well, I've been gone for a week. The snow might be gone now. But, you got to realize it's 5 feet deep and frozen around there. I didn't go up there in the last 4 weeks, but when we saw it leak the first time, we did go up, identified what the issue was. And so, as soon as but it's not an expensive fix. It's not like a roofing company has to come and replace a big chunk of the roof. It's pretty minor.
I get it. So,
Just
you're right.
access to it.
Even if there's some ice in there, we still should be able to get at it somehow to clear it up or put something temporary over it. So in 90 days, when we get all this snow based upon the fog or before, that it's not going to continue to go to where it becomes a big problem instead of a small one. It seems logical to try and get it done now while it's a small one before it becomes a big problem.
Is it not accessible though? Easily accessible?
It's not, no, not easily accessible, no. And it was covered with snow. It's a roof drain. There are multiple of them. And whatever reason froze, lifted the grade up off, and water is sleeping between the pipe and the rubber material. Yep. So it's a literally matter of a rubber sleeve and some roof, yep. It's a matter of if we can get to it, right, if the ice and snow is gone, which it might be after this week. But that is, we don't have leaks like that in all over the building. That's the one we have. If we have more, certainly let me know.
Just
We
look
ask you to
bad
report.
Saturday when there's a basketball game going
Yeah,
on.
no doubt, those shouldn't have been there. We've done it, and when the game starts, we put something up in the ceiling to keep it from dripping on the floor, and then move the buckets, rather than ruin another ceiling tile. So those shouldn't have been out,
That's
but,
fine.
yep.
Is it what it is?
We are very aware of it, absolutely.
Any other discussion? And we're adjourned.